All right, pagans, settle down. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church, beacon of liberal religious thought in the South Bay, a location of the upcoming California Dominoes Championship. Okay, that's a lie. But we are an intentionally welcoming and green congregation. This is a great time to turn off your cell phones. We're not as tolerant as we advertise sometimes. For those newcomers with children, we offer religious education that begins after the children's moment with Jewel, who I saw in here somewhere. Stand up, Jewel. There, Jewel's our RE leader. And Moad, so we all see you in the rainbow shirt. For those of you with young children, you're probably aware of our religious education program. For those of you with young children who are not in it, quit holding out. We got a number of announcements. A quick announcement that's still going on is Barbara Marriott's got a Gathering of Angels art exhibit at the Angels Gate Cultural Center. This has been sitting up here for me to mention for some time. And let's see. We're having a big party for yours truly on the 22nd, Friday, 6 to 8 or 9. Plan accordingly. And Barbara French, we're memorializing her on this coming Sunday at 1 or 1:30. I'll clarify that. I don't know. I can't remember. I should have clarified that, but I didn't. Barbara, you didn't hear me say it, but I pitched your art gallery. It's up here on my sheet here. Okay. We have Senior Covenant Group on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. It'll be the last one I'm at, sad. And Seekers is on Wednesday at 10. What else is cooking? Kelly has a bunch of letters. We actually got a GA to get out the vote, and particularly, important districts in particularly important states. So if you want to sit at home and write, I'm sure we'll have some gatherings of people on the patio soon enough writing letters for those who are well-intentioned. We stop and think about the fact that this church, as beautiful as it is, sitting on what was the native Tongva land for generations and generations long before we got here. And we pause and think about that heritage. What else? Who has an announcement? Anything? Nobody. That's all we do. We don't really do much around here. Nothing happens, ever. There we are. Okay. I'm going to invite Catherine Lee up to read our chalice words, and here we go.
Today's chalice words come from former UUA President William Schultz. Come into this place of peace, and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory, and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and peace, and let its vision change your heart.
Thank you. Today's sermon topic involves the basic question that surround prayer, like, does it work? If so, how? If not, why do we keep praying? We ask this question knowing that it's hardly the first or last word on the subject. Because we're here in this oddly scrutinizing and yet faithful place, we consider that question mindfully, even soulfully. And we ask with sort of a both, don't look, don't snow me. I'm smart. I listen to NPR. And with a softer pause, knowing that in this imperfect world, prayer is often the last option. And in this world that has a very magical nature to it, who knows what. But we begin first with a prayer. I was singing a song, 1007, There's a River Flowing in My Soul. Please sing heartily under your masks.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind.
A pretty little song. Thank you, Shana. I'd like to invite all our young and young at heart down for a children's moment led by Chelsea and Dan. So come on down.
Yay, kids. I love it. So, we have a little story for you. And do you guys have pets? No.
My 3-year-old brother.
Oh, that may be included, I guess. Yeah, 12-year-old sister. That's probably someone who is
They wanted a dog, but they got Brandon.
yeah, I got it. It's okay.
Kidding.
You have a cat named Dragon? Ooh, that's a pretty name. So let's read us a story, okay? Once upon a time, a girl named Roberto and a boy named Ramona, I think I said that, Ramona, girl named Ramona, I'm having trouble with Roberta, had a wonderful dog. They named the dog Felice. Felice was so happy when Ramona and Roberta came home from school that he... Danny, you're gonna have to... You're gonna,
Take it away, Danny.
Okay.
yeah.
Can you hear me? Is my
Yeah,
mic on?
you're good.
He bounded toward them, barking and tail wagging madly. Sandy brown coat was sort of wavy around the shoulders, but straight and smooth, and his
Take your mask off
around his haunches.
and give him the mic.
Under his chin, he had a rough fur that Ramona liked to tangle her fingers in. He had dark, silky ears that Roberto liked to stroke. Felice was always getting burrs caught in his hair, so the children took turns every day brushing his coat. With their dog, Ramona and Roberto would roam the neighborhood. Sometimes Felice would run ahead, chasing a squirrel. When they went to the pond, Felice would swim with them. Sometimes they would sit on a tree stump, and the dog would sit quietly beside them. His tongue hung out, and his tail wagged as he rested. Once in a while, if something happened at school, the children would tell Felice all about it. He would look at them with his brown eyes, and it seemed like he understood. When they walked to the supermarket, sometimes bigger kids would try to tease Ramona and Roberto, but Felice growled at them, so the bigger kids left the children alone. They learned to walk and not be afraid when they walked with Felice. They loved Felice very much, and Felice loved them. Then one day, something terrible happened. Felice got very, very sick. He must have eaten something very bad for him because he never got well, and he died. The children cried and cried, and they found a place in the garden to bury him, and they wrapped up his body in a pretty scarf and covered him up with dirt and planted a pretty bush by the grave. and they thought all about the fun they had with Felice and how much they missed him. A few days later, Ramona was walking home from school, and a dog came toward her, tail wagging. It reminded her a lot of Felice. It's like Felice is part of that dog too, she told her brother. Roberto saw a squirrel running like crazy across the schoolyard. It brought back memories of how Felice chased squirrels. You suppose the squirrel saw Felice's ghost? He said, and the children laughed. Ramona and Roberto had to walk through the neighborhood where the mean kids lived. The children remembered how confident they used to feel with Felice at their heels. They decided to pretend that Felice was walking beside them, and they walked bravely past the other kids. The bigger kids said some things, but Roberto and Ramona kept on going, thinking Felice would be with them if he could be. That night, they asked their dad, "Do you think dogs turn into ghosts or angels or something when they die?" "I don't know," said Dad. "You miss Felice a lot, don't you?" "Yeah, I miss brushing his coat, and I miss his silky ears and waggly tail. And sometimes it's like he's here somewhere, but just out of sight. Sometimes I see another dog, and I think it's Felice," said Ramona. Mother said, "You still imagine him sometimes, don't you? How is he was so friendly and playful, all the ways he was special to you. You can see him even when he isn't there." The children nodded. "You can feel happy for the wonderful dog he was, even though you are sad, too. His love lives on in your memory. Maybe that's what it means to live forever, remembering the friends you love and who love you, and letting that love fill you with happiness and live inside you. When you remember Felice, part of him lives in you again." "I like that," said Ramona and Roberto, and they smiled.
Yeah.
So just remember that if you have dogs or animals or even people, that they all live inside you. And just by remembering them every day, or looking at something and reminding yourself of them in the world is a good thing, and it helps.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. We're going to sing out our children with our Sing Out Our Children song, Go Now in Peace. Thanks. I'm going to tell them. So next week is my last week here, and I'll do the children's moment, and we can all be sad, because I will be, like with Felice. All right. Let's sing out our kids.
We're going to do an archipelago, as my dad
All right.
calls it. 3, 2, 1. Go now in peace.
Later.
Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere,
everywhere you may go.
Nice archipelago, everybody.
I got it. Thank you. Okay. Our centering hymn is one you should know, or you should try to know. Shane is going to lead it. I think you should try to close your eyes and sing it and see how good you do. Some of you can close your mouths and sing it, and that would work too. Not you, Shane. Not you.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Carolyn McDade wrote that song in the early 80s. She went to a women's conference in Michigan, and she thought there were, we were still using a hymnal that had a lot of Judeo-Christian stuff. We've kind of improvised that, and she wrote that because she wanted to just make it more, female-centric and less God-centric, and it's become, I think it's the second most UU thing you can do is sing that song. No, it was voted. The first is to light the chalice, which I didn't do until Kim prompted me. So, yeah, there we are. We're going to invite folks down for joys and concerns. Leanne can come person the microphone over there and just line up. You can come talk to me, or you can grab a candle, and I can also come visit you with the microphone if you prefer that. A prayer from Lao Tzu.
Today's prayer is from Lao Tzu, the enigmatic author of the Tao Te Ching, and who is essentially the founder of Taoism. Taoism and Confucianism are both from China. They grew together and essentially paralleled each other in time and style. Confucianism is appropriately rule-oriented and respectful. Confucius is the namesake of the very practical, here and now, philosophy of good manners, habits, orders, and civilization. Taoism is a little looser, freer, and more oriented towards individual freedom and nature. Taoism is a faith born from sitting by the river, either for just the right amount of time or way too long. Taoism, one might say, is the yin to Confucianism's yang. Yin represents femininity, passivity, the earth, and darkness. Yang stands for masculinity, activity, the heavens, and light. These two traditions dance through China's history, providing, well, a yin and yang balance to each other. But enough foreshadowing. Here are Lao Tzu's simple words. Always we hope that somebody else has the answer. Some other place will be better. Some other time it will all turn out. This is it. Nobody else has the answer. No other place will be better. And it has already turned out. At the center of your being, you have the answer and know who you are and what you want. There is no need to run outside for better seeing, nor peer from a window. Rather, abide at the center of your being, for the more you leave it, the less you learn. Search your heart and see the way to do is to be. Amen.
Let's sit in silence for just a minute. Please join me in our responsive reading in your order of service and maybe above my head. Goddess willing. Here we go. Before I say that, I want to say how cool it is, and I hope you appreciate this, that this church takes a standard Protestant order of service, right? Changes the words to the hymns, makes them a little bit more multicultural and a little bit, adds Buddhism in, readings from Taoism, readings from Buddhism, and then talks about prayer, all in one service, and no one bats an eye. That's the way the world should be. Wisdom from everywhere. Let us cultivate boundless goodwill. Let none in anger or ill will wish another harm. Radiating friendliness over the whole world. May it be so. One of the perpetual religious questions is the lingering and important question and you know it before I say it. Does prayer work? And if so, how? And if not, why do we keep doing it? Can our words, intentions, or thoughts, is one way to phrase it, hurled up and out of us in some way, not only affect us, but affect reality? I know, it's a real question. Unlike the great religious debates of whether hell lives below the ground, spoiler alert to those loyal to hell, it doesn't. We know that under our feet is rock and water and minerals and some caves and magma that certainly helped shape our imaginations about what hell might be like. And unlike a common religious perspective that we are at the center of the universe, we are not. You can't hear me? The mic's on? Oh, I just turned it off. All right. So unlike the common religious perspective that we are at the center of the universe, we're not. 100 trillion stars tell us otherwise. The question of whether prayer works is still a reasonable one. If there was a jury, it would be out, maybe even split. That jury would be deliberating, probably in this way, over whether all the miraculous things that take place, and unquestionably miraculous, or at least miraculous-like, or miraculous adjacent things do take place, whether those are animated by some unseen force, or whether our inclination to believe in such miracles is a mix of selective perception and optimism. That's the jury would be debating on that. Since today I'm acting as both the minister and the lawyers and the judge, I'll say that some of the questions about prayer sent to the internal jury in my head and heart are settled. I would like to begin by saying that if the question of whether prayer works in some vague way are answered in a phone a friend to the Almighty, if the question is asked, does prayer work in the simple way of where our intentions, hopes, and needs get prayed, get delivered, and then get responded by some place or some personality, not unlike one might phone a friend on a game show, I think the answer is a simple no. I wish it were true, but too much evidence speaks against that being the way it works. Oscar Wilde craftily noted, if prayer ever got answered in that way, we would stop calling it prayer and start calling it correspondence. So to me, when Jesus gets quoted in the Gospel saying that God counts the very hairs on our head and has an eye on every sparrow, I believe he, or more likely the author who wrote those words up for him, is speaking earnestly, but from a place of inspiration and hope and deep, empathy, but also from a place where wishful thinking and care for those who want to believe that outweighs reality testing. Painful and common sense evidence from every corner tells us that people, babies, war victims, people who died in gun violence or experienced torture, live quiet lives of loneliness, the list goes on and on. Please stop me because I get disappointed. We all know that very earnest people, very good people who simply don't get their prayers answered. I can only sort of say that with a growing sense of maybe a bitterness of feeling duped. We're all aware that people around us who, like Job, get the shaft, but unlike Job, don't get any explanation from a God as to why their prayers don't get answered. My internal jury person might be a crack open to deliberating about the possibility of some supernatural force occasionally tweaking things on earth at just the right time. I'm a little soft on that, I guess. But to me, there's enough unresponded to tragedy that prayer is certainly an unreliable way to approach your life as something to totally lean into. Yet despite that sort of scathing indictment, I'm humble enough to say I think I don't, and we don't know exactly what's going on when we talk about prayer. Absolutely remarkable things do happen to enough people to keep humans from absolute skepticism on this. But the idea that there's a force that's reliable, that prayers are heard and categorized, is to me another thumbs down way beyond a reasonable doubt. No. I think religious people do an injustice to the very tenuous nature of our lives, not to mention common sense, when good people say heartfelt, but trite things like, all prayers get answered, just not in the way we wished. That statement is often followed by a sweet and well-meaning smile. If it were God's job to miraculously prevent harm to all those who earnestly pray, that God should be stuck in one of those country club prisons where the other powerful dictators who are proven derelict in their duties go to. I truly, standing here in my stole in front of you, deeply wish the world did work that way. Maybe my first girlfriend of 54 wouldn't be fighting for her life with cancer at the moment. I deeply believe that the veracity of that idea lasts because we so wish the world worked that way that we fight endlessly, despite most of the evidence and reason that to truth that into existence. It is the best idea we could possibly believe. The truth is, the world is a scary place, and often there is nowhere else to turn but prayer. And I think we humans need a period of collective mourning that idea that good people will be safe from harm is not the way the universe works. I wish it was. I suspect that day, if it ever were to come, would actually sort of be a deep, holy day of grieving and of really, to some degree, of some relief, wouldn't it? As much as the image of an angel swooping down to save us puts a nice, helpful face on the universe, because angels so often don't swoop down, it indicts people's relationship with mystery and the magic of the world as much as guide it. And right along with those ideas erode the value that prayer itself has. I'm tired of people watching them lose their own sense of the sacred and their own spiritual core because the tradition they come from has sold them what they believe is a bill of goods. That's just not true. And I feel a kind of a prophetic sense of reclaiming religion from bad, superstitious ideas. If one does not clarify that their deepest inclinations are not hurled to some magical location where they're heard, not heard, answered, or ignored, if one doesn't get beyond that, and you combine that with the modern sensibility of truth and skepticism, you'll likely not ever graduate from prayer feeling like undignified begging for things that you can't control. And when that happens, the disappointed person naturally loses their will to pray, and possibly with it their connection to whatever you want to call God or sacredness. There's a cost that we don't often figure for cultivating a belief in things that are not true, and that is a world emptying of churches, emptying of people, where people might find community and live in and engage in the real struggles of their lives together, like we at least do here some, and pretty well, I think. Part 2 here is easier. See, to me, at least firing God or the personified image of the divine for not answering every prayer is to accost the sacred. It's sort of a false straw man. For a job, it's that's our idea, I think. Let's revise what prayer might look like in our heads and make its evaluation. To me, I think that's best done humbly. And let's turn the corner that way a little bit. I propose that in a universe where we only have a limited range of senses, touch, sight, etc., access to only a few ways of knowing, prayer might be thought of as an imperfect form of communication, of communing with the spirit of, that animates life, the spirit of life, as we call it. A means to connect and reconnect to the source of life is something this jury and judge believes in. What if prayer, rather than a correspondence, was one of the unknowable forces in the world? More a force of energy like a radio signal than a mountain. What if we came to see the spirit of life, damn cool name, by the way, as a force not unlike so many other forces we can't see, more akin to gravity than email? To pick another image, what if we came to see prayer work not as surgery does, quickly and immediately, but more like the way an overhaul of your diet and lifestyle does, slowly and comprehensively? And what if that mentally and soulfully focused message of spirit, we might still call prayer, were more force that could infuse and flow into the openings we make for it? I'm sure Garcia's in the back steaming like Socrates, but give me a minute. Stop and imagine for a second an invisible force that's at work in this room when we light candles of joys and concerns. Don't we at least sometimes find ourselves in something of a form of a trance, where we laugh and we cry and we connect in this invisible way? Is the emotion we all share easily explainable or measurable? I don't think so. Is that force all-powerful? No. Does that force take away your leg pain or the fact that you are hungry? No. But nonetheless, it exists, and it heartens us, doesn't it? The goodness that lives in this room, that laughs and loves in the relationships, what if prayer, in the imperfect way our hearts are opened a little when we share our stories, could spread open the very part of ourselves that might be built to be open to the numinous in a way that words would never supply, to a creative force in the universe that's hard to discern? What if we softened what prayer's expectations were? If you get caught up and angry about all that prayer fails to deliver, what if, rather than asking prayer to tap into a benevolence of a powerful personality for a favor, what if we began to think about prayer as something that could imperfectly, could in a more private, long-term way, wash over our egos, deepening the places in our heart and quiet us, opening us, making our hearts smile? Let's be with that feeling for just a second. Just open yourself up to the love in the room. And think about life without that. In that humble way, let's, in silence, send our wishes to the people that have their lives constantly in turmoil or turned upside down. Let us, in silence here, send our love to those with health issues facing their own concerns. And for all those people falling in love right now, if you felt or feel anything like that here, that power needs as much airtime in our lives as our skepticism does, right? Both are important. What if we came to put aside the idea of what prayer can do in an instant and came to see prayer as mostly an imperfect, non-dramatic, clumsy tool? One that's less like a thunderbolt and more the way water has the power to create openings. What if we upheld the great skeptical tradition of wanting to see the facts at the same time, we held up this place as a location for the divine to flow through us and for prayer to be one of those mediums. I encourage you to twist the word and begin to think about prayer as an imperfect way of tapping into the underlying physics of life that we barely understand and forever may be beyond our capacity to interpret. If you're a skeptic first that prayer works, maybe our skepticism could be rooted in our limited capacity to see the dynamic way everything is interconnected. Maybe in thinking about prayer, greater clarity on what is going on might be dependent upon a bigger heart filled with love and more information about how we function. Maybe that makes prayer relevant. Maybe prayer becomes eventually seen as the word we use for the unconscious power and intention with which we do things. Maybe that's that voice. And when we begin to think like that, does not then the very importance and the question of prayer go away a little? Maybe I've said nothing. Maybe I barely understand what I'm saying. No, that's true. I do. I do believe a few things. I believe it's destructive, as the UU minister Erica Hewitt smartly phrases it, to think of prayer as something of a form of Russian roulette, a theology where makes some stray bullets miss, but allows some hurricanes to hit. To me, those theologies create more harm than comfort and distort our already tenuous process of discerning how everything works. But when prayer is left in the realm of mystery, not unlike for me the sheer way a radio transmission works, or maybe how a brain functions with calculus, I feel better about it. If you never pray, if you almost never stop to notice the blessing in life, then prayer would feel silly. Why wouldn't it rationally appear to make as much sense as skis do on your feet for the first time? Or about as much use as I have for those little silly squiggles on a music page? Or the gap that in between the ways you look at a person your friend is in love with and the way you look at him or her? What if prayer's real gift was the capacity to steadily improve our biological and emotional relationship with the numinous we will never understand? What if the collective jury in our minds began to view that power and experience, as one felt from prayer, was more dependent upon our larger relationship with the holy other of life than upon the graces of some external personality? Maybe then we could believe in prayer a little more and save such a cool word. Amen. Catherine's going to make you laugh or try. Here goes.
A Sunday school teacher was discussing the 10 Commandments with her 5- and 6-year-olds. After explaining the commandment to honor thy father and thy mother, she asked, "Is there a commandment that teaches us how to treat our brothers and sisters?" Without missing a beat, one little boy answered, "Yes, thou shalt not kill."
Give generously.
shall not live in vain. I shall not live in vain.
You ready for our affirmation of gratitude? Here we go. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us also be grateful for our needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. Our closing hymn is One More Step, number 168.
This is one of those hymns that require big, loud voices.
Big voices. Yep.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll take one more word, one more prayer. We will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Okay.
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. And blessed be. And now our service truly begins, or at least should. One pause before you sing. We haven't funded this lunch thing we do yet. It doesn't have a line item. It costs us $12,000 a year. We're going to need to figure out how to do that, because it's probably our most hands-on program. So I'm challenging us. I haven't put that into place, and we got to figure out how to do that, because it's been on my credit card and then I get reimbursed, but we need to make that move. So keep that in mind. You.
Okay, we scoured thousands of songs to find an appropriate song for a midsummer service. So we're going to do autumn leaves.
Perfect.
We found it. We found the perfect one. Leaves drift by my window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your limbs, the kisses, the sunburned hands I used to hold. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear old winter song. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. The fallen leaves drift by my window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips, the summer kisses, the sunburned hands I used to hold. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear old winter song. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall.
Thank you, Shana. Jose, come here. I want to, Jose is awesome. He is awesome. He is. I mean, he was here till midnight last night, almost, so many weekends he's here. He just crushes it. He does everything. He does it on his own. He's awesome. And I will really miss him.